Scorpio. Somewhere right now, water is moving toward you. Not the kind you can see with your eyes, not yet. But if you sit still for a moment, if you let the noise of the day fall quiet, you can feel it, a low, patient pull underneath everything, the sensation of something gathering weight as it travels. Stay with that feeling. It is not invention, and it is not wishful thinking dressed up as hope. There is a current shaped exactly like your life, and it has been moving through hidden country for a long while now, carving its way toward the place where you are sitting. I want to trace that water with you today, from where it began to where it is about to spill open. Not to promise you the impossible, but to show you what my intuition keeps returning to when I quiet myself and reach toward your energy. And what it returns to again and again is the image of a person standing at the edge of a dry riverbed who does not yet know that upstream the rains have already fallen. You have been that person. I feel it clearly. You have stood at the edge of your own life and looked out at ground that seemed cracked and empty, and you told yourself a story about lack. You told yourself that the money simply was not coming, that the well had run dry, that whatever abundance the world was handing out had somehow skipped your address. And who could blame you for believing it? You were reading the ground beneath your feet, and the ground was telling the truth about that single moment. But the ground is only ever the last place the water arrives. It says nothing about what is already on its way. Here at Spiritual Light Tarot, I spend my hours listening to the movement beneath the surface of things. And the movement I sense around you now is unmistakably one of gathering, of accumulation, of something long delayed finally being released. So let us follow it upstream first. Let us go back to where this current was born, because you deserve to understand that what is coming to you was not luck, and it was not an accident. It has a source, and the source is you. Trace the water back far enough and you arrive at a version of yourself who kept going when going made no sense. There were seasons when you worked and saw nothing return to you. There were efforts you poured out into the dark, gestures of care, hours of labor, small acts of integrity that no one applauded and no one paid you for. You may have thought those efforts vanished. You may have grieved them a little, quietly, the way people grieve things they are too proud to admit they wanted. But nothing you gave truly disappeared. Energy does not evaporate, it travels. And every ounce of what you released into the world with honest intention became a drop in a current that has been flowing back to you ever since, picking up speed in places you could not see. This is the first truth I need you to hold. Your dry season was not a punishment, and it was not proof that you were doing life wrong. It was the upstream. It was the long, slow, invisible part of the journey where the water gathers before it moves. Rivers spend most of their length far from the sea, threading through country no one visits, and yet not a single mile of that hidden passage is wasted. Every bend adds momentum. Every narrow place adds pressure. What looked like your years of nothing were actually the shaping of everything. I sensed there was a specific stretch where you nearly gave up on the idea that money and ease could ever belong to you. Something happened, a door that closed, a promise that broke, a moment when the numbers did not add up no matter how many times you counted them. And in that stretch, you made a quiet decision. You decided you would keep your dignity even if you could not keep your comfort. You decided you would remain generous even when you had little. You decided you would not become bitter, even when bitterness would have been the easier country to live in. That decision matters more than you know, because the current I am following does not flow toward the desperate or the grasping. It flows toward the ones who kept their hands open even when their hands were empty. Now let me tell you where the water is now, in this present moment, because this is where the story turns. The current has reached the place where the land begins to fall away, and everything that gathers slowly upstream begins to move quickly. You are standing at the lip of that change. I feel it as a kind of pressure at the back of your recent days, a sense that something has been building, that a threshold is close, that the long, flat stretch of your circumstances is about to tilt. For a long time, something was holding this water back. Picture it as a wall, a barrier that formed across the river without your permission. Some of that barrier was built by other people, by those who did not value what you offered, by systems that were slow to reward you, by the plain bad timing of being ready before the world was ready to meet you. But some of that wall, I will be honest with you, was built by your own hands. Not out of foolishness, out of protection. Somewhere along the way, you learned to hold back your own flow because receiving felt dangerous, because wanting felt shameful, because you had been disappointed enough times that you decided it was safer to expect little. That wall is beginning to give. I can feel the pressure of the water against it, and I can feel the first cracks running through the old barrier. This is the part of the reading where I want you to breathe, because what happens when a long-held current finally breaks through is not a trickle, it is a rush. It is the release of everything that was stored up during the waiting. The abundance that reaches you will not feel proportional to the effort of a single week or a single month, and that will confuse the part of you that is used to careful arithmetic. It will feel like more than you earned in the moment, because it is more than you earned in the moment. It is the return of everything you earned across the years, arriving all at once, the way water arrives when a dam finally opens. Let me describe the shape of how it comes, because abundance rarely walks through the front door announcing itself. The current will find the lowest, most open channels first, which means the money will reach you through the places where you have been most receptive, most willing, most unguarded. Watch the edges of your life. Watch the conversation you almost did not have. Watch the opportunity that arrives wearing ordinary clothes, looking at first like an inconvenience or a favor or a small ask, and only later revealing itself as the doorway it truly was. I sense there is something owed to you. It may be money in the literal sense, a sum that was promised and delayed, a return on effort that stalled somewhere in another person's hands, a value you created that has not yet found its way back to your pocket. But it may also be recognition that converts into money, a seeing of your worth by someone with the power to reward it. The current is carrying both. And I want to prepare you for the fact that the timing will feel almost improbable, as if a knot you had stopped trying to untangle simply loosened on its own while you were looking the other way. There is a particular quality to this incoming abundance that I need to name, because it will help you recognize it. It arrives soft, and then it arrives fast. First, there will be a sign small, easy to dismiss, the kind of thing you might chalk up to coincidence, an unexpected message, a number that comes back better than you feared, a person who thinks of you at exactly the right moment. Do not dismiss the small sign. The small sign is the first water reaching the dry bed, and where the first water goes, the flood follows. Your task in that moment is simply to receive it without immediately bracing for it to be taken away. Because that bracing, that ancient flinch, is the last remnant of the wall. I feel how deeply you have trained yourself to distrust good news, to wait for the catch, to enjoy nothing fully in case enjoyment invites loss. That instinct kept you safe in leaner times, and I honor it for the protection it gave you. But the leaner times are ending, and the instinct that protected you in scarcity will only shrink your experience of abundance if you carry it forward. So this is the inner work the current is asking of you. To let yourself want, openly, without shame. To let yourself receive, fully, without the reflex, to minimize. To stand in the rising water and, instead of running for higher ground, to finally get wet. I keep returning to the image in the words above your reading, the idea of bathing in it, of being surrounded, of abundance as something you are immersed in rather than something you chase. There is a profound truth hidden in that image, and I want to draw it out. Chasing money and being immersed in money are two entirely different relationships. The chaser is always behind, always reaching, always running out of breath. The one who bathes has stopped running because there is nowhere further to run to. The water is already everywhere, already touching every part of them, already holding their weight. The shift that is coming for you is not only a shift in your bank account, it is a shift from chaser to bather, from the exhausting posture of pursuit to the restful posture of enough. And here is where I feel the energy grow warm and certain. In the middle of everything I am sensing for you today with Spiritual Light Tarot guiding my hands toward your story. The enough you are moving into is not a modest enough. It is not the bare minimum, tighten your belt, be grateful for crumbs, kind of enough that the world sometimes tries to sell to people who are tired. It is an expansive enough. It is the kind of enough that has room in it for pleasure, for generosity, for rest, for the small luxuries you have denied yourself for so long that you almost forgot you wanted them. You are not being led towards survival. You are being led towards spaciousness. Let me sit with the texture of that spaciousness for a moment, because I think you have forgotten what it feels like. Spaciousness is the ability to say yes to something without first checking whether you can afford it. It is the quiet that comes when the low-grade hum of financial fear finally switches off in the background of your mind. You may not even realize how loud that hum has been until it stops. So much of your energy has been spent managing scarcity, calculating, postponing, choosing the cheaper thing, declining the invitation because of the cost, lying awake, doing math you already knew the answer to. All of that spent energy is about to come back to you as freedom. And freedom, once you taste it again, will remind you that you were never meant to live braced against your own life. Now I want to speak to the practical intuition, the part of this reading that gives your hands something to do, because abundance is not passive, even when it flows toward you. The river carries the water, but you still have to open the channels on your own land. So listen for these nudges and act on the one that makes your chest feel warm rather than tight. There is something you have been undervaluing, a skill, a possession, a piece of knowledge, a relationship that is worth far more than you have been treating it as. You have been holding it lightly, giving it away, discounting it, or ignoring it entirely because familiarity made it invisible to you. I sense the current wants you to look again at the thing you take for granted. The gold is hiding in the ordinary. The overlooked corner of your life is where the water is pooling deepest. There is also a conversation you have been avoiding, not out of laziness, but out of that old fear of asking, of appearing to want, of being told no. The current is asking you to have it anyway, to name your worth out loud, to make the request you have been swallowing. I feel strongly that the answer waiting on the other side of that conversation is far kinder than the one your fear has been rehearsing. You have been protecting yourself from a rejection that is not actually there. And there is a door you have been treating as closed that is only ajar. You walked past it once, decided it was not for you, filed it away as a mischance or a road not taken. But roads do not close the way we think they do. Energy loops back. What passed you by is circling around again, and this time you are more prepared, more grounded, more worthy in your own eyes than you were when it first appeared. Keep your attention soft and wide. The second chance rarely announces that it is a second chance. It simply shows up looking like a fresh beginning. I want to widen the lens now, because the abundance I sense for you is not meant to end with you. This is one of the most beautiful things I feel in the current, and it is the part that convinces me the flow will be lasting rather than fleeting. Water that arrives and stagnates becomes a swamp. Water that arrives and moves through becomes a river that never runs dry. The wealth reaching you carries the same law. What passes through your open hands on its way to others will keep the source flowing behind it. Not because generosity is a transaction, and not because giving is a trick to get more, but because the same openness that lets money in is the openness that lets it move, and moving water stays fresh. I sense you are the kind of person who will do beautiful things with what arrives. There are people you have quietly wanted to help and could not. There are burdens you have watched others carry, wishing you had the means to lift a corner of the weight There is a version of your generosity that has been waiting, patient, in a locked room, unable to express itself because you had nothing to give. That room is about to open. And I want you to know that the joy of finally being able to give, of picking up the check, of covering the gap, of solving the problem for someone you love with a quiet ease you never had before, that joy may end up meaning more to you than the money itself. Watch for it. It is one of the sweetest waters in this whole current. There's a deeper reason the abundance is arriving now, and it has to do with who you have become. I do not sense that you are the same person who first stood at the edge of the dry riverbed. Something in you has ripened. You have stopped needing money to prove your worth, even if you still want money for the ease and freedom it brings. That distinction is everything. The universe seems to open its hands most fully to the people who have stopped mistaking wealth for value, who know they are already whole and simply want more room to express that wholeness in the world. Somewhere in your waiting, you cross that line. You learn to hold your head high without a full account behind it. And it is precisely because you learn to stand tall while empty that you are now trusted to stand tall while full. Full is a state you may need to practice gently because it is unfamiliar. When the current breaks through, there will be a strange grief mixed into the joy, and I do not want it to catch you off guard. You may find yourself mourning, just a little. All the years you spent afraid, all the pleasures you postponed, all the smallness you accepted as if it were your permanent size. Let that grief move through you like the rest of the water. Do not fight it, and do not let it convince you that you are undeserving. Grief at the threshold of abundance is simply the old self saying goodbye. Think it, then step forward. I want to describe the arrival itself, the moment the metaphor becomes flesh, because I think you need to be able to picture it in order to allow it. Imagine the dryness you have known, the tightness, the counting, the careful no, and then imagine that dryness being met by warmth. Not a splash, not a shock, an immersion. Imagine lowering yourself into a life where the fear of not enough has been rinsed away, where you can rest your full weight against the surface of your circumstances and be held. Imagine what your shoulders do when they finally stop bracing. Imagine what your face does when the math stops. That is the bath the words above your reading are pointing to. Not the crude picture of coins and bills, though those will come, but the deep, sensory, whole body experience of being surrounded on every side by enough and then by more than enough. And here is the part that I feel with the most certainty. The part I would stake my intuition on. This is not a single windfall that arrives and then leaves you dry again. The image of the current matters because currents continue. A single lucky payment would be a puddle. What I sense around you is a river, a changed relationship with abundance, a new default, a shifting of your entire baseline. After this threshold, the question in your life stops being whether the money will come and starts being what you will do with the space it creates. That is a different life. That is not a better week. That is a new topography. I keep sensing your hesitation though, and I want to speak to it directly because it is the one thing that could slow the water even now. Part of you is afraid to believe this. Part of you has been disappointed by hope before and does not want to be made a fool of again. I understand that fear intimately, but I need you to hear the difference between hope and knowing. Hope is a wish thrown at an uncertain sky. What I am describing is not a wish. It is a reading of a movement already underway, water already in the channel, momentum already committed. You do not have to believe hard enough to make it happen. It is happening. Your only task is to not slam a door against it out of an old habit of self-protection. So let me give you the posture that opens the door widest, because your receptivity is the last variable, and it is the one entirely within your control. The posture is not frantic action. It is not manifestation forced through gritted teeth. It is a relaxed, expectant openness, the inner equivalent of leaving your palms turned up instead of clenched. When an unexpected good thing arrives, say thank you and keep it, rather than questioning whether you deserve it. When someone offers you something of value, accept it cleanly, without the reflexive discount, without insisting they should not have. When an opportunity brushes past you, turn toward it with curiosity instead of flinching from it, out of the assumption that it cannot be meant for you. Each of these small yeses widens the channel. Each of them tells the current that the land is ready to receive. I feel that there is one specific area of scarcity you have carried the longest, one particular ache around money that has followed you through many seasons. Older than the rest, more tender than the rest. You know exactly the one I mean because it just surfaced in your chest as I named it. That is the ache the current is heading toward most directly. The universe has a way of routing its deepest gifts to the exact site of the oldest wound. Where you were most emptied is where you are about to be most filled. The place that hurt the most to lack is the place that will feel the most miraculous to have. Do not be surprised when the abundance arrives with a strange emotional precision, as if it knew all along where you were most sore. As the water rises around your life, you will notice your relationship with the future beginning to change, and this may be the most valuable shift of all. Scarcity does something cruel to the imagination. It shrinks the horizon, makes tomorrow into a threat, turns planning into a form of dread. You may have caught yourself avoiding thoughts of the future entirely because every version of it required money you did not have. Watch what happens when that changes. Watch your imagination stretch back out. Watch yourself begin to picture things again, a place you might live, a thing you might build, a trip you might take, a gift you might give, not as fantasies you punish yourself for wanting, but as plans you are allowed to make. The return of a livable future is one of the quiet miracles hidden inside this current, and it will arrive alongside the money, sometimes even before it. Let me name something about worthiness, because it sits at the root of everything I have said. You have spent a long time in a subtle argument with yourself about whether you are the kind of person good things happen to. That argument is about to be settled, not by an idea, but by evidence. By the plain fact of abundance arriving and continuing to arrive until the old stories simply cannot hold the weight of the new reality. There will come a point, not far from now, when you will look at your life and realize you can no longer honestly call yourself unlucky. That realization will feel like ground shifting under a belief you did not know you were standing on. Let it shift. You were never unlucky. You were early. You were upstream. You were being prepared to hold what was coming, and now the holding begins. Let me tell you something about the shape of the water that I have been holding back until now, because I wanted you to feel the certainty of it first. What is arriving does not come to you through a single channel. I do not sense one river only. I sense tributaries, several separate streams, each with its own source, each traveling its own hidden route, all of them bending toward the same low ground where your life is waiting. This matters because you have been taught to pin your hopes on one thing at a time, to fixate on the single job or the single deal or the single stroke of fortune, and to hold your breath until it either comes through or collapses. That is not the pattern I feel around you. I feel a convergence. I feel more than one good thing finding you at once, from directions you are not watching, so that even if one channel narrows, the others keep flowing. You are not waiting on a single yes. You are standing at a confluence. And I want to follow one of those tributaries all the way back to its source, because it runs deeper than your own lifetime. There is a pattern of scarcity in your line that did not begin with you. Somewhere behind you, there were people who worked their whole lives against a current that never turned in their favor, who wanted more for the ones who would come after them, who carried a lack they could not put down, no matter how hard they labored. You inherited the echo of that struggle, a quiet, cellular belief that money is hard, that safety is temporary, that people like you do not get to rest, but inheritances can end. Patterns that took generations to harden can dissolve in a single life, brave enough to feel them and refuse to pass them on. I sense that you are the one in your line who breaks the old agreement with scarcity. What arrives for you arrives for them too. In a way, a long-delayed vindication of everyone who came before you and hoped, without proof, that someday the current would turn. It is turning. In you, it turns. Notice too where your body has been holding this. Scarcity does not live only in the mind. It takes up residence in the flesh. There is a tightness you carry in the jaw, the shoulders, the stomach, the place behind the breastbone where you brace against bills you have not yet opened. You have worn that tension so long that it feels like part of your posture, like simply the shape of being you. As the water rises around your circumstances, watch that tension begin to unwind, sometimes before you consciously understand why. You may find yourself sleeping more deeply. You may notice your breath reaching lower into your chest. You may catch your hands unclenching in your lap without instruction. The body knows when the danger has passed, often before the mind is ready to trust it. Let your body lead you into the good news. It has been waiting to exhale for a very long time. There is a change coming in how you are seen, and it will open doors that effort alone never could. When a person stops radiating quiet financial fear, the world responds to them differently. Opportunity is drawn to steadiness, the way water finds the most confident channel. As you settle into the new baseline, others will begin to sense a shift in you they cannot quite name, a groundedness, an ease, a quality of no longer needing anything desperately. And people offer their best to those who do not seem to need it, not out of cruelty, but because ease signals capability, and capability attracts investment, partnership, trust. You will find yourself included in conversations you were once outside of. You will be thought of for things you were once overlooked for. The reputation that precedes you is about to be revised, and the revision works entirely in your favor. Watch your surroundings begin to change too, in small ways at first, because abundance expresses itself in the texture of ordinary days long before it announces itself in grand gestures. The thing you have been repairing instead of replacing gets replaced. The small daily denial you have practiced for years, the cheaper option, the smaller portion, the thing you talk yourself out of at the last moment quietly stops being necessary. Your home begins to hold objects chosen for pleasure rather than only for need. None of this is vanity. It is the visible evidence of an invisible shift. The way the greening of a riverbank tells you the water has returned before you ever see the river itself. Pay attention to these small changes when they come. They are not distractions from the real abundance. They are its first flowers. I want to name a truth that will feel counterintuitive because it runs against everything scarcity taught you. Some of the most powerful things you can do to widen this current involve doing less, not more. You have been trained to believe that abundance is earned through relentless effort, that if you simply push harder, the water will come faster. But a river does not move faster because the banks strain toward it. The land that receives the most water is the land that has softened, opened, made itself low and available. Your rest is not laziness. Your ease is not carelessness. When you allow yourself to slow down, to stop white-knuckling every hour of your life, you become more receptive, more able to notice the opportunity that requires stillness, to see. Some of what is coming to you will only be able to reach you if you stop running long enough to let it catch up. Give it that chance. Let yourself be caught. And I feel the season turning around you, not a date I could mark, but a quality of light changing. The way you can feel spring approaching before a single flower confirms it. There is a quickening in your recent days, a sense of things speeding up after a long stillness, of loose threads suddenly pulling taut, of a plot that seemed stalled beginning to move again. Trust that quickening even when it unsettles you. Long stretches of nothing often end not with a gentle transition, but with a sudden gathering of events, several things shifting at once, as if the universe had been quietly arranging the pieces the whole time you thought nothing was happening. What felt like abandonment was preparation. What felt like silence was the water gathering just out of earshot. The turn you have been waiting for is not a distant possibility anymore. It is close enough now to feel. I want to speak to the momentum of it because I sense you worry that even if abundance arrives, you will somehow lose it. That you are the kind of person who cannot keep good things, who lets them slip through their fingers, who returns to zero no matter what. Release that story. The current I feel is not testing you to see if you will squander it. It is not a trap disguised as a gift. It is the honest return of what you built, and it comes with a kind of stability woven into it because it is founded on who you have become rather than on a single stroke of chance. Things built on character last differently than things built on luck. What is arriving for you is built on character. There is one more thing the current wants me to say before we reach the wide water, and it is about a person. I sense that part of what arrives will come through a human hand, someone who becomes, perhaps without fully understanding it, a conduit for the abundance heading your way. It may be a face from your past who reappears carrying an opportunity you could not have reached on your own. It may be a quiet ally who has been watching your work and waiting for the right moment to open a door for you. It may be a stranger who enters your life sideways and changes its financial shape almost casually. Whoever it is, I want you to stay warm toward the people who cross your path in the coming while, even the ones who seem, at first, to offer only friendship or a small kindness. Abundance loves to travel disguised as relationship. The one who blesses your circumstances may arrive looking like nothing more than a good conversation. Keep your heart hospitable. The messenger is on the way, and messengers are easy to miss when we are only watching for money and forget to watch for people. And so I feel the reading beginning to gather toward its close, the way a river gathers toward the wide, calm place where it finally meets the sea. Everything I have traced today, the long upstream years, the wall that is breaking, the soft first sign, the rush that follows, the immersion, the generosity, the changed baseline, the healed ache, the returned future, all of it flows toward one simple invitation. Stop bracing. The dry season taught you to expect little and defend hard, and it kept you alive, and you can thank it now and set it down. What is coming asks a different posture of you. Open, warm, expectant, at rest. You do not have to earn the water. You already did. You have only to let it reach you. If there is one thing I would ask you to carry out of this moment with Spiritual Light Tarot and into the days ahead of you, it is this, that you begin, starting now, to speak to your own life as if the abundance were already on its way, because it is. Not with forced affirmations that your heart does not believe, but with a quiet, grounded knowing. When the fear whispers that the money will not come, you can answer it gently. The water is already in the channel. When the old habit reaches to discount a good thing, you can answer it gently. I am allowed to receive this. When the horizon tries to shrink, you can answer it gently. I am building a future again. These are not lies you tell yourself. They are true reports from further up the river than your eyes can see. Stay open in the coming while. Keep your palms turned up. Notice the small sign and do not dismiss it. Have the conversation you have been avoiding. Look again at the ordinary thing you have been undervaluing. Turn toward the door you thought was closed. And when the water reaches you soft at first, then all at once do not run for higher ground. You have spent long enough on the dry banks of your own life. Lower yourself into what is arriving. Let it hold your weight. Let it rinse away the years of counting. Let yourself, at long last, be surrounded on every side by enough, and then by more than enough, until the very idea of lack feels like a country you used to live in and will never have to return to. The current has been traveling toward you for a long time. It is almost here. All that is left is for you to be ready to be held.